welcome back to LinkedIn Logs, the jobs podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back in as the theme song ends. Oh, was that the best intro I've ever done? Yes, it was. Hey, look at that. I'm looking at the scores for Dallas Mavericks versus Brooklyn Nets, and the Mavericks won. The Hawks, post-trade with Trae Young and the Wizards, are playing the Lakers tonight, Showtime Lakers, at 10:30 p.m., presumably, in Los Angeles. What's going on? Here we are. We are in the midst of... I'm not going to tell you what time it is because it's none of your business. We are in the midst of the day. I did not want to push this until tomorrow, so I wanted to get everything knocked off. What's been going on? I'm working, obviously, and it's going well. Hopefully, I don't know. Today's my first real day adding things into this to the system. It's television, so it's not like a system job. I don't know how to describe it to people. When people ask, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a TV producer. For the 5 out of 6 jobs that I've had have been a TV producer, with the exception of at CNN. And they go, well, what do you do? Well, what does that do? What does that do? And I just go, it's stuff. That's what it is. It's stuff. It's hard to describe the job because when you're a TV producer, you kind of do everything. And I mean, and it's really just a catch-all type deal. What I'm doing now is motion graphics producer, but my work laptop's up there, so I keep looking at it. It gives you a hint what time it is, or any time of the day it is. That it's not. It's still the work day. But when people ask, I just tell them, and I try not to get into the minute details because each one is different. When I was at NBC News, it was just write news stories for the website, and then when I was at I was gonna say Wall Street Journal. I never worked there. The Weather Channel. The Weather Channel. When I worked at the Weather Channel, that was just cutting video, and I never did anything else. I did try to write. I did try to write there, and I was let go before anything ever materialized in that. I was doing post-production at Bounce, Cartoon Network. I was basically what I'm doing now, except a little less hands-on, and now it's more hands-on. So there you go. That's what it is. That's what I do. Anyway, that's it. I am so tired. People don't tell you that jobs take energy. All right, let's get into the stories. Hold on. Let me see if this is actually pulling up exactly what I needed to pull up. Yes, it is. Okay. Here's a story from the New York Times. This is the jobs report. Yes, I remember I did this last week. This is what happened. I pulled up. If you're watching the video, I just pulled up the thing, the internet. What happened last week was I finished the show, and then I uploaded. I did everything, and then I found a couple of stories, which are this week's stories, and I already uploaded them. I put them on the Notion page where all my ideas are for LinkedIn Logs. I have one for every single podcast. Anyway, and I forgot it was there until just now sitting down. And I went, oh, yeah, that's right. I did put up stories up because I was going to look for stories so I could just sit down and just go. So here we are. If you're watching the video, you can see it. It's from the New York Times. Hiring continues at a modest pace, and weaknesses are evident. Oh, there's a double space there. So this is a jobs report for January. Last week was the first Friday of 2026, which means the first Friday of the month, which means that you get the jobs report for the previous month. In a couple of months, we'll probably, I think by March or April, we might get the revised job report for 2025. Okay, so here's what to know about the report from Talman Joseph Smith. The employers added 50,000 jobs in the last month of 2025 in December, and the unemployment rate fell to 4.4%. For the full year, the U.S. employment growth in 2025 was the weakest since the recession in 2020. Again, we weren't sure, and we're still not sure if things are pointed towards a recession. The average hourly earnings grew at 0.3% pace, on a monthly basis in December, and a 3.8% on the annual basis, on the acceleration compared to the trend of previous months. Now, from the outside, from the naked eye, from somebody like me who does not know a lot about these about jobs numbers, it never really seemed as though the job market hit any type of growth that was tangible. There were jobless claims all over the place, and for some people, they couldn't even claim they were jobless. The unemployment rate did increase throughout the year, but the labor force participation rate for people in their prime working years between 24 and 65 remains at a relatively solid 80.7%. I saw an article. Let's see. Oh God, what was it called? Oh yeah. I saw an article about minimum wage increases, and I can't for the life of me remember where it was. Oh, here we go. Here's from the New York Times. This is written by Audra D.S. Birch. Minimum wage rises in some states as workers struggle with basic costs. For the first time, we're seeing more people have access to at least a $15 per hour minimum wage. So it's 19 states. And then we also have 49 cities and counties that have increased the floor to $15. So that makes in total 88 states, counties, and cities will make the adjustment by the end of this year, according to a new report by the National Employment Law Project, which supports workers' rights. Now that's up from the federal minimum, that is $7.25, which I would say even 20 years ago, no one could live on. That rate has been unchanged since 2009. A living wage is the argument that we're seeing all over when it comes to people who have to rely on jobs that pay non-living wages. I believe the minimum wage here in Georgia is $7.25 still, or whatever number I said earlier. A lot of this already took effect on January 1st, so we're seeing that in the places that where it's allowed. Colorado's minimum wage increased to $15.16 per hour from $14.81. Maine rose to $15.10 from $14.65. And then some tip wages will also increase. This makes me wonder, in places like Colorado, where it's already, like if you live in Denver, it's already very expensive. I assume a city like Minneapolis is fairly expensive itself, in Tucson, Arizona, which also has, and Maine. is this something that people can tangibly feel the difference in? Because I know if you did $15, what's the minimum wage in California? Minimum wage, California. So in California, statewide, the minimum wage was increased to $16.90. So, but is that a difference? Higher rates for continuing for fast food workers to $20. It looks like. Yeah, $20 per hour. Now, is that enough to live on, to pay for rent in Los Angeles? I don't exactly know. When I was Jesus, how old was I? This was after I graduated college. Was it before or after NBC? Well, it was still in Roswell, so it was probably before NBC. Yeah, because I was at the factory. Yes. Oh my god. Because I worked at a UPS factory. Anyway, in between leaving the factory, right, and going to NBC, or maybe I did both at the same time. Because I moved to the city. It doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? I was living in the suburbs, and I was working at a post college, and I was working at a pet food store. It sold mostly dog and cat food, and they did grooming in the back with a groomer, and then workers had to wash dogs, sometimes little kittens, and clip kitten nails and clip, bunny nails and everything, up front, where there were 3 tubs, and you can also come in. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was making the minimum wage, which was $7.25. It was a locally owned store in Roswell, Georgia. Actually, no, excuse me. It was Roswell. Yeah, it was like closer towards Milton. Does not matter. Anyway, I was making $7.25, and there were, let's say, a total of 5 people that worked there, not including the owner, who was always touring with his band. This is getting very specific, but it doesn't matter because nobody knows I'm talking about. What, I don't even know what the pit stop for pets is. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, the owner's a nice guy. Anyway, so there was like maybe 4 or 5 people that worked there, and one young lady was just a terrible worker. Like one of the laziest people I think I've ever worked with out of all the jobs I've ever had in my life. And I was about to get she just bad hygiene, and she just didn't work. Anyway, so one day she just up and quit, and then I get a call from the owner, and it was a big hubbub around the store, and then I get a call from the owner. I'm at home, and he's like, "Hey man, I just want to thank you for staying with us and being honest and loyal and blah blah blah, and I'm just gonna give you I'm gonna give you a raise, and you'll start seeing on your next paycheck, and it's about 10 cents, and I hope you enjoy it." And he was dead fucking serious, and I was like, "What?" He gave me a 10-cent raise on $7.25 an hour. So it became $7.35, and he was not lying. I saw it on the next check, and baby, ooh, that extra $1 I earned, in total, oh man, oh my god! But he called me, and it was so serious, and I just thought, I remember hanging up and going, "What just happened? Why did he treat this like it was $10?" Like he took me up to $10. No, it's 10 cents. It was crazy. What a stupid thing that happened. But the fight, this movement, this Fight for 15 movement that began in 2012 with fast food workers striking in New York, has it began as something that was on the outside, and now it's basically the thing that this entire nation should be fighting for. I mean, we're talking, not to get political, but we have an organization filled with people carrying their own weapons and killing people and abducting people and kidnapping them, and because they are quote unquote not from this country, and all these factories, these farms, all of these low paying jobs that these people would work because they can't. They're getting out these honest jobs because they are unable to get the jobs that pay more money. No one in who is American born, or this is. This sounds as bad as I think it is wants to work those because they see them as jobs that they are above, and so now we're having all these shortages and price increases and people just unwilling or jobs going unworked because some people are hiding because of a bunch of American-born terrorists named ICE, and then everyone else is just like, I'm better than that. I'm not going to work that job because it pays too little. In 2024, Proposition A, a minimum wage ballot measure, passed with nearly 60% of voter support. Last week, the minimum wage jumped to $15 an hour from $13.75, increasing pay for nearly 500,000 workers, according to Missouri Jobs with Justice, an advocacy organization. Additional increases beyond 2026 were to be calculated by the Consumer Price Index, but last year, Governor Mike Kehoe, a Republican, signed into law a bill that limited the minimum wage increase. Imagine making an extra set of dollars, not just cents, but dollars per month. That could total $100, $200, $300 on top of what you were already making. But then some dickweed wants to limit your minimum wage increase for no reason at all, and citing it as a political factor. And people wonder why. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. It's tough out there, and people. I think what happens is there's a couple of dichotomies around the United States, around the world, where some people just forget that there are others who are not lucky enough to be in the same position as them. Like there's a lot of grandstanding and telling people to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. But when you've never been in that position, or you were in that position 3 decades ago, it's like you don't remember what kind of strength and resilience that you have to have in order to survive that, and what kind of luck in order to get out of that. Yeah, it's kind of, this is part of the reason I know I'm going into the opposite end of the spectrum, but it's kind of the reason I like Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and people like that, because they remember what it's like to be broke. Dwayne, his whole story is he had $7 in his pants. I believe he actually had like $13.50, but he had $7, which is what he named his production company after. He had $7 to his name. Again, it was something around that, but he had $7 to his name, and he was in. This is like when he was a kid. How many times do you hear of a celebrity going, "I was going to quit acting"? Henry Cavill was playing Warhammer or some bullshit when he learned he was getting Superman. I know he's one of those nerds. I could beat him up. All right, and finally, here's the last story I want to talk about. This comes from NPR, written by Waylon Wong and Stephen Bisaha. Yeah. Corey Bridges and Kate Concannon, How AI is Shrinking the Job Markets for Teens. It's an episode of The Indicator, and as much as I think it is an overproduced podcast, I think this is a very good episode to learn what the Generation Alpha, I believe, is doing in order to get jobs. It follows Carissa Tang, a 17-year-old in California, who took a look at how AI is affecting typical teen jobs, like being a cashier or working at a fast food counter. We see news stories all the time. Here's a robot arm taking food and putting it together and doing it for people, or just a cashier box being put in place of people buying their stuff. Teens are the perfect people to work those menial jobs. Teens and retirees, and I hate to say menial as if it's something that is less than, but please note that I'm not saying that. But teens, this is where, like, truly, this is going to sound like I'm one of those people who's complaining about who's talking about minimum wage and how people need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. But this is how teens learn what the real world is. Yeah, you hate going to a shitty job and you just have to deal with it. And you and you work until the hours are over, and then you go home, and hopefully you have a little cash in your pocket from the job, and you learn what the value of a dollar is. And to take these smaller but necessary jobs away from teens who actually need them is just astounding to see, negatively astounding to see, because it doesn't make sense. And if a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old who maybe is skipping a semester in college or is not going to college can't get this job, then they're never going to get the experience that is needed in order to get other jobs that are in the same sector at higher levels or across different ventures. I do like The Indicator. Right? This is a little aside. I do like The Indicator, and I do like Planet Money. They're too overproduced. And every time there is I don't know if I mentioned it on this show or the Constitutionals, but I answer every single survey that comes to my inbox, because you find out things that companies are thinking of. For instance, Hulu has done things, has said things in a survey that they've eventually ended up doing. Same thing for Nintendo. Like Nintendo will ask, are you interested in VR? And then you can be like, yeah, I use VR with a MetaQuest, or I've used VR with the PC or like a PlayStation or whatever. Like, no, I'm not interested in VR. And that they're just putting out feelers. So anyway, I do the surveys, and I've stated on surveys, hey, The Indicator and Planet Money are too overproduced. I think they are. I don't need to hear because they're written. These are written podcasts. They're scripted, and they're telling you a story. Not telling you. Yeah, they are telling you a story. They're telling you a news story, but they're a little bit more flexible in their language and their speaking. And I'm just going, hey, just give me the news, man. Give me the news. That's why Up First was Golden Globe nominated. Every single. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this confidently. Every single podcast that was nominated for a Golden Globe, if you put the amount of time that they've existed together, which has not been very long, with the exception of Armchair Expert and maybe Up First, I've been podcasting longer than Amy Poehler. I've been C+ Comedy's been around longer than Amy Poehler. Amy Poehler's podcast, not Amy Poehler herself. She's been around a long time. Not that I think she's old. The smart list guys. Whatever, it's fine. I'm not doing this for recognition. Okay, I'm done. I have to get back to work. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people, celebrities. Sometimes I've got a couple more interviews coming out soon, so be sure to get ready to see those. If you want to see a video version of those interviews, called The Interviews, or you want to see a video version of this podcast or the other podcasts, Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, and The Constitutionals, the Entertainment Business News Show, go to youtube.com/C+comedy, where you can also see the rest of that stuff. Subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media, TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube @C+comedy. Me on those platforms @Chad Blackwhite. Chad Blackwhite. All right, bye.